All right. Hello and welcome to our weekly live. Today we're going to be talking about what if you don't want to do what's good for you. Okay? And also, what if you're doing all the things that are good for you and that you should be doing to help you heal or to help you connect with your inner child or to help you heal your wounds or become better or self-improve in some way, and it feels like it's not working. It feels like you're doing all the things you should be doing, you're using all your disciplines, you're showing up, you're, like I say, doing all the self-improvement work, you're doing all the spiritual work, you're doing your yoga, you're doing your meditation, you're eating properly, you're doing whatever you think is the right thing to be doing, that you've been told is the right thing to be doing to improve yourself, and it doesn't seem to be working. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're feeling like, again, you're stuck in your path in the sense of you know what you should be doing for yourself to get better, to improve your addiction, to stop doing your coping mechanisms, to get over, like I say, negative patterns in relationships, negative patterns in your life, things where, again, you just feel like you can look at yourself and you could say, like, I could just stop doing this thing. And if I could just stop doing this thing, everything would be great. If I could just stop drinking, I'd fix my life. If I could just stop binging on Netflix, everything would be fine. If I could just stop exploding in relationships, everything would be great. If I could just start this new job, if I could just start standing up for myself, if I could just start that yoga practice, start that, good morning, Glenn. If I could just start that process, if I could just get on the thing, get on the diet, get on the workout plan, get on the spiritual practice, I know I'd be better, but I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I know what's good for me. I know what would fix me. I know what would heal me. I know what would make this all better, but I just don't want to. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, there's something inside of me, and like I say, the don't want to can be something where you literally feel like the rebellious teenager inside who knows what you should be doing, and it's just like, fuck that. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. Or you feel like there is that part of you that knows and wants to do it, but then there's seemingly this other part that seems to take over and causes you to just do something else. And you just think, like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, why can't I just do the thing? We're going to be talking about that. And then, like I said, we're also going to be talking about what if you're doing all the things? What if you're sitting with your negative emotions? What if you're trying to change your eating habits? What if you're meditating? What if you're doing your yoga? What if you're listening to spiritual people and reading your spiritual books and journaling and doing all the things, and you still just feel awful? You still just feel crazy. Your life isn't improving in the way that everyone says it's supposed to improve when you do all these things. What's wrong? So I want to first start with this. We are all doing the best we actually know how to do right now. And I know that that doesn't seem logical, okay? When we're doing things that seem so deeply self-sabotaging, right? When we look at our habits and we think, no, there's no way that my binge drinking or my binge eating or my over-restricting or my yelling at my partner all the time or my quitting the job constantly, my procrastination, my whatever it is, right? We all think, no, there's no way that that's what's best for me because I know the harm this thing causes. I can see the destruction it causes in my life. And I can see how much better everything would be if I could just stop or if I could just start doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. There's no way that this thing is the right thing. And what I'm saying is, yes, it is. It always is. And here is why. Whatever you are doing that seems self-sabotaging, that seems like it's wrecking your life, that seems like it's the wrong thing. Or whatever it is that you can't get yourself to do that you think and you are so convinced right now is the right thing and would fix your life and make everything easier and better for you, what those things actually are. Okay? So on the side of doing the things that you don't want to be doing, that behavior, that way of being, whatever you are doing, is meeting a need that you don't understand, that you don't have any other way of meeting. And therefore, if you were to stop doing it, when you stop doing it, every time you try to stop doing it, you feel worse. You get to a point where eventually you cannot stop yourself from doing the thing, because it's literally like, this is my metaphor for it. It's like you don't understand that you require hydration to live. And for some reason, you were raised in a way where the only form of hydration that you are aware of contains a little bit of poison. So every time you drink, you get a little bit sick. But that's all you know. You don't understand the mechanism of I need hydration. You don't understand the mechanism of there's clean water. You don't understand the mechanism of when I drink clean water, I will no longer crave the water with a little bit of poison in it. Because you have no understanding that there's even poison in the water. You were indoctrinated that the poison water is bad. It's bad to want and need that. But it's also the only thing here. Because, again, think of it like this metaphor, right? That the poison water is the only water available in society. And there are kind of like two camps of people out there. There's the camp that's all ashamed of themselves, that we're trying to use the childhood mechanism of shame and guilt to stop ourselves from doing this thing that's fundamentally painful, drinking poison, because we don't understand it as a society. So there's the shame and guilt people who all pretend that they're not drinking the water when really they are, and who feel terrible about themselves when they do it, like there's something wrong with them. And there's all these recovery groups for people who are standing together and then they fall off the wagon and get back on the wagon and all this stuff. So there's that side of it. And then there's the other side who's just like, we're just going to destroy ourselves doing this. So what? We all want to drink the water. It makes us sick. We're not going to have shame and guilt about it. We're just going to accept it. And neither of these two sides actually understand what's going on. Because like I say, what's really going on is you need hydration. And there is nothing and no one and nowhere and no reality in which you don't need that. You're not going to get rid of that need. That's why you're drinking this sort of poison water. Because it's meeting a need you have no other way of meeting. When you get off the poison water, things get worse. So you feel a little bit better because you're not poisoning yourself. But then the dehydration starts to kick in. You have nothing to replace it. What are you going to do? You're going to go to the poison water. It makes you a little bit sick, but it also helps you not die. You see? And you've been indoctrinated into a world where poison water is the only water that exists because we as a human society don't understand that we need hydration in this metaphor. That's what's happening. You're not addicted to whatever you're addicted to simply because you're weak-willed. Because there's something wrong with you. Because whatever, your brain, blah, 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 blah. No. It's meeting a need in a partial way that you have no other way of meeting. And unless and until we start to understand this about ourselves, we can never change our behaviors. It sounds the same as getting ourselves repetitively into abusive relationships. That's what you know. That's the relationship dynamic that you understand. That's how you know how to be in relationships. If you were to get into a relationship with someone where it's not abusive, you won't know how to get your needs met in that relationship. Because you won't know how to serve the other person in some way in order for them to acknowledge and give you love. You don't know how to receive love in a non-abusive way. You don't know how to feel good in a relationship outside of that abuse cycle. Right? We have to start to understand that the way that we're living is how we know to get our needs met. This is how we know how to get our needs met. And so, like I say, for most of us, we're so deeply unaware of what we need because it's been so covered up, so non-addressed, so non-anywhere on the spectrum in your awareness that I have this need. This is what I need. This is a healthy way of getting this need met. Like I said, go back to the metaphor. All we know is that we drink poison water. We have no idea that we need hydration. We have no idea that the water provides hydration. We have no idea that the little bit of poison is the thing that's wrong with it. It's not the water in general. It's not drinking in general. It's not the fact that we need hydration in general. It's that the only hydration available has poison in it, and we don't understand any of that. So it's very confusing. All we see is what's wrong with us that we keep drinking this thing that makes us sick. Maybe we're addicted. Maybe we're weak-willed. Maybe there's something wrong with us. Yeah? So Maria says, how do we find out what the needs are we are meeting with poison? Exactly. I'm going to get there. Okay? But I'm just wanting to drive this point home first. This is what you're doing. So whatever your thing is, you are not the anomaly. Okay? Look me in the eye. Your thing is not the one thing that's not this. You are not the exception. You are the rule. Whatever your thing is, whatever you are doing that you think, no, this is just bad. This is just wrong. There's something wrong with me. I'm weak-willed. I'm lazy. I'm sloppy. I'm addicted. I'm broken. I'm whatever it is that you think you are. It is not true. You are doing the best you can to meet the need the way you understand it. And unless and until we start with that, we are never going to make progress. Because if we are starting with, what's wrong with me? We're starting wrong. We're starting with a hypothesis that's incorrect. So we are not going to find correct information if we're starting from a false understanding. And every single time you look at yourself and you think there's something wrong with you, and what do I need to do to fix myself? Okay, this is why the self-love path is so radical. And it's not the self-improvement path. Because the self-improvement path says, look at the problem this thing is causing. What do I need to change and fix about myself so that I get a better result? And that sounds innocent enough, doesn't it? What do I need to change and fix about myself to get a better result? That's fine. That sounds good. No. What do I need to understand about myself so that I can meet my needs and my desires in a more complex way, in a way that aligns with reality better? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. What need am I getting met through how I'm doing what I'm doing? How is this opposing reality? How am I breaking myself against reality? Through no fault of my own. Because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. This is what I was taught. This is how I was taught. This was the level of awareness I had. This is the level of awareness everyone around me has. We're all doing the same shit. There's literally no reason to feel shame about any of this, right? And again, that don't ever confuse malice for what can easily be explained as ignorance. We, as a human race, are so ignorant of ourselves. We know so little about what the human psychology, about the human spirit, the human body, the human mind needs to thrive. And we know so little about reality, the boundaries of the reality that we live in, the rules of the reality that we're in, that we don't know how to meet our needs within reality in a structured way. And even when we look out and we see people who are starting to do that, right? Like, we look at people who eat healthy and we think, how do you have so much discipline to do that? And it's like the people who have been on healthy diets for decades are not using discipline. There's no willpower involved because we have very finite willpower. And we know this. We are driven by pain and pleasure. And if we can't start to understand that, we're also not going to get anywhere. And if we can't start to understand that in real reality, when we are following real reality, when we are living in alignment with true reality, eventually it's going to feel good. In the beginning, it might not, and we've talked about this a lot, because we have conditioning. We have been conditioned in our childhoods that the things that are actually good for us, the ways of being that are natural to us, the things that get our will, that are actually our growth path, our true authentic path, have been shamed, guilted, blamed, scapegoated, wired into our nervous system as being wrong, bad, and going to kill us, because it made our caregivers reject us. And their rejection in our childhoods meant death. So we are all living in a world where we're deeply confused. Okay? So we all need to understand this. Whether you're on doing the discipline and it's not working, or you can't get yourself to do the things you know you need to do, it's partially because your nervous system is right now using that thing to help you get your needs met in the only way you know how, within a system where you being your real true self right now, to actually get your true needs met, to really admit to yourself who and what you are, what you need, what is good for you, is going to feel like death to your nervous system, because it's been so wired in there that to do that gets you rejected. And to be rejected is to have your caregivers, your source of nourishment. When you were 0 to 7, this got programmed in. Your caregivers are everything to you. When they reject you, you die. Okay, this isn't about tribalism. This isn't about how we used to be. This is what happened to you, and this is not about a past life. This is you in this life. In this life, you were trained by your caregivers that if you do what is natural to you, that if you are who you really are, that's bad and wrong and you can't be that. And that literally can be because your parents just believed if you're this way, oh my God, you're not going to survive. It had nothing to do with them being nefarious. They loved you deeply. They wanted you to be able to survive in this world, and they were trying to teach you what they knew. They told you not to be this way and to be this way instead, because that's what they thought. It was their survival mechanism kicking in when they saw you act in ways that are out of line with how they think reality works. They're like, no, don't do that. Yes, do this. We love you. We care about you. Please don't do this. All the way to the narcissistic thing, right? Your way of being interrupted them getting their needs met. So they shamed you and blamed you. Or you were expressing ways that showed that what they were doing was wrong. And instead of them being able to own that, they projected onto you. You have to stop. You have to be different. Because if your sensitivity is correct, that means I'm wrong, and I can't admit that. It doesn't matter where your parents were on the spectrum. Somewhere in there, you got deeply nervous system programmed that to be your real self is to be dead. So a lot of us are going to find that as we're doing this inner child work, as we're sitting with our negative emotions, as we're trying to discover who and what we are, it's really hard and we make no progress. Like this is, so if you're feeling like you're doing all this work and you're trying to be with yourself and you're trying to sit with yourself and you're trying to be with your emotions and you're meditating and you're journaling and you got a counselor and you're listening to all these spiritual books and on all these spiritual teachers and it's just not working, you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, your nervous system shuts you down, your mind just races, you can't connect with yourself, you never feel like you get the message from your emotion, it's just panic or shutdown, your nervous system is just trying to protect you. It's just your nervous system saying, no, if we are that, if we let that out, if we admit that this is who and what we are going to die. Because that was so deeply shamed, blamed, rejected, and like I said, programmed into your child nervous system. That if I am this, caregivers reject me. When caregivers reject me, I die. So I am going to bury that thing in me forever. So this is another reason why we have our addictions, coping mechanisms, scapegoats. It's not that those things necessarily get us approved of. It's not that those things necessarily meet a need that seems so obvious. Sometimes those things are just the thing that stop us from being the thing that got us rejected in our childhood. It's we binge instead of speaking our mind. We drink instead of expressing what we really feel. We sit and watch Netflix so that we can get ourselves to go to the job again tomorrow. It's how we numb the pain of living out of alignment with ourselves, doing these things we think we have to do to be approved of. And like I say, it's not even think at this point. It's going to be, for all of us, completely so deeply assumed that this is how reality is. That if I were to be different than how I am, that there is just absolutely no way that that's possible. Like, it will either be nervous system shutdown, like all you will feel, I'm sorry, my eye, there's just like something in my eye, so I'm like touching my eye a lot, just that's why I'm doing that. It's going to be nervous system shutdown, like even trying to consider doing something different. Not doing what you're doing or doing something different than what you're doing. It's just going to be like white noise, like, woo, like your nervous system is going to be so just like, don't go there. Your mind is going to distract you with all these other things, make your anxiety, make your depression, make your feelings about all the little nitpicky things in your life. Maybe it's that I can't sleep because it's a little bit too bright. Maybe it's because this plant is in the wrong place. Maybe it's, like I say, it's just because I binged. It's just because I ate again. It's just, we always have those little things that if I could just fix this little thing in my life, all my pain would go away. Everything would be fine. When really the truth is, no. If you fix that little thing in your life, all the pain would still be there because the pain is coming from you can't be yourself. And you're having to live a life that has nothing to do with you. Because that's your conditioning. Because your nervous system says, if I did something different, I'll die. So that's what's coming up for us. And so then again, when we're doing the work and we're trying so hard to figure out who we really are and what does our emotions really mean and what's really going on with me, and our minds won't let us, our bodies won't let us, we never get anywhere, it's all this discipline and no reward, it's just because your nervous system is too scared. It's just saying to you, we're not gonna look at that. We can't, it's too hard, it's too scary, it's too confusing. Because like I said, it's so deeply entrenched in your brain that this is the way that it is. Martha Beck talks about this in her book, The Generalized Other. In her book, Finding Your Own North Star, Martha Beck. She talks about how the way we were programmed from 0 to 7, what our parents and our religion and our friends and family, everyone that was around us from 0 to 7, the influential people, formed our worldview of these are just the assumed ways things are. These are the assumed right and wrong things. These are the assumed good and bad things that get so programmed into our way of being that we either don't recognize that there are other ways of being that are equally useful, that work just as well as our way. That there might be other ways of being that are better than ours, that work better, that serve better. And we don't recognize that there's a world out there of people who were raised with completely different worldviews than us. We make the generalized other that everybody believes this because this is true. And then we get on the internet, right? And we debate each other. Conservative, liberal. We have these polls of different religions, different diet philosophies, all these different ways of being that we talk about. And we're all like assuming that we're all working from the same fundamental understanding, which we're not. Right? We're all walking around like everyone believes what we believe. Everyone knows what we know. And they're just making stupid choices. That's how we act. That we all have the same base understanding of how life works, of what the right and the wrong things are. And the people who aren't living like you are just making stupid choices. Like, what's wrong with them? And the people who don't think like you, it's like, again, what's wrong with their brain? Why aren't they doing what I'm doing? They must just be stupid. And it's like, no, they have a completely different set of facts than you. They have a completely different worldview than you do. Their foundation for what reality is probably completely different than yours. Right? We've got this generalized other of this is what everyone thinks, this is what everyone values, this is the perspective that we all have, and I'm either living up to it or not living up to it, and everyone out there is either living up to it or not living up to it, and our level of happiness is determined by how much we're living up to it. It's consensus reality. Right? And then this is why we all get into these debates over what is the right and the wrong way to be, the good and the bad, the best and the worst. Because we don't understand that we're all different. And that we all have different needs. And we don't understand what our needs are. And we all believe that we will all be happy when we're accepted. We have the childlike view that says, when I am accepted, I am provided for, my needs get met, and then I'm happy. So we're all living from this fundamental understanding that it is acceptance by humans, by those around us, that's going to make us happy. So we're all trying to convince each other that what we're doing is right, as though if we could just convince all of our friends that the diet that we're on is the best diet, that all of a sudden it will give us the results we want. This is what we're doing. It's literally completely insane when you look at it from a bird's eye view. But it makes such perfect sense to us. Like, we are literally going around looking for the spiritual teacher who will tell us that what we're doing is already the right thing. And it's like, we know it isn't. Because if it was, we wouldn't be in pain. If it was working, we wouldn't need someone to tell us if it's going to work. It would feel good. When we are actually in tune with ourselves, we don't need a guru. This is why I am such a frustrating person for a lot of people. People always ask me, how do you know what you know? Who do you listen to? What did you read? What did you do? And I'm like, okay, I read all the same stuff that everyone else did. I listened to Alan Watts. I listened to Ram Dass. I read everything Martha Beck ever wrote. But, right, no one's going to look in those books and say they understand my whole entire deep tissue cleansing curriculum and my childhood trauma. Why do I know all this stuff? Did I go and get a degree and a PhD in human psychology? No. I've been studying human psychology for my entire life through observation of humans. Well, how do I know what I know about spirituality? My experience, my interaction with reality itself. I have questions, and I have felt my way into knowing everything that I know. And I think that's another thing that's so hard. It's not, I don't have an intellectual understanding. I have experience because I felt things, because I haven't been able to numb myself. This is all that it boils down to. I don't know how to numb. I think I literally am missing enzymes in my body. Painkillers, like literally physically on a physical level, a painkiller doesn't work. So I am in a state of feeling all the time. So people ask me what happens after death. I don't know. I haven't died. I don't have an experience with that. Are we transitioning to a 5D? I don't know. Are you transitioning to something higher than what you have been before? I think that's all that matters. Right? I'm just telling you my experience. So from what I have seen in human psychology, from what I have seen in my experience with my own human psychology, I was indoctrinated that who and what I was bad. And learning to be okay with who and what I was in order to even discover what I was, right? Discovering that, like, oh shit, I want to move far away. I want to be on the internet and expose myself. I want to, all these things that I do, the ways that I live. I don't want to eat animals. I'm going to be thin, and people aren't going to like that. I'm going to have an unconventional everything. I'm not going to be able for my parents to be able to easily explain to anyone what I do. And that was devastating. Like in the beginning, finding out these things about myself didn't feel like bliss. It felt devastating because it meant I had to give up that I was ever going to be what society, my generalized other, my parents, my church was going to accept. So much of this journey was recognizing that all that self-hate I had, all those coping mechanisms, all those things that I was doing that I thought was what was wrong with me, was just my way of trying to stop myself from being my real self. Because admitting to myself who I actually was, who I actually am, what I actually am, was deeply traumatizing. Because it meant I'm never going to get that approval. I'm never going to be what they wanted me to be. I'm probably going to lose them. Because I can't do it. And I'm not rebelling. I'm not telling them that their way of being is stupid. I did for a little while. Because I wanted them to agree with me. I wanted them to come with me. I didn't want to lose them. And I started to get to the point where I couldn't not be myself. And I was trying to compromise. I was trying so hard to find the middle ground of where can we all be. And it just got to the point of like, okay, this is horrifying. This is devastating. I can't live the life that they want me to live. I can't be the person they want me to be. And I hid myself from myself for a long time until I was ready to admit that to myself. Until I was ready to face that I was never going to be accepted. That I was going to be rejected. That I was never going to turn into the perfect, awesome thing that my generalized other wanted me to be. So a lot of the time when we're doing our self-improvement work, and I really want to say this, who we think we're supposed to turn into before we're good isn't who we really are. And we have to let go of the story we've been telling ourselves about this is who I'm supposed to end up being. Like I thought I was going to turn into one day this literal, emotionless, needless, spiritual teacher who had no, like I say, like literally no boundaries, no limits, was completely available for all people at all times, who was physically perfectly healthy, like didn't need to sleep, didn't need to eat, didn't have a single need. Like literally, I had an expectation of myself that I was going to turn into someone who could live in Canada, be completely compassionate and available for any person who ever wanted anything ever, never have to say no, never have a need, never have an emotion, like literally, never have an emotion, just be happy and joyful all the time. And I didn't even recognize, because I wasn't sitting there thinking, this is who I'm going to have to be good enough. I didn't even recognize what my conditioning was. It took a long time before I was like, oh my God, that's my expectation of myself. That I'm going to turn into a literal non-human. And then I had to be devastated that I was never going to be that. And that my generalized other did expect that of me. And that I had a whole bunch of people in my life that I was telling them, this is who I'm going to be, this is who I am, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. So it looked to me like everyone expected that of me. Because that's who I was trying to be, that's who I was trying to tell people I was. So of course people were like, well, I'm gonna treat you like that. Because that's who you're telling me you are. You don't ever tell me you're tired. You don't ever ask for anything. You don't ever express that you're a human. You present like this. So then it's double reinforced in my head that I have to be this. And double horrifying to think that I have to be my real self. Because my real self isn't like that at all. My real self gets tired. My real self doesn't really want to answer questions. My real self kind of wants to put things out there and let you figure it out. My real self does not want to be a guru. My real self does not want to be praised by anybody. My real self wants to empower everyone else to be their own power. I don't want to market myself. I don't want to do all the things. So you'll see, I'm not consistent with my marketing. I don't have marketing. I don't want to run a business. I don't care. You see? And so it's just, this is the thing. So like all of my addictions, all of my things that I were doing, that was, I know better and I should be doing better, were simply just how I was not being my real self. It's how I was trying to cope with trying to be the person I thought I needed to be, so that everyone would love me. And so starting to understand that as an adult, I can get my own needs met. I don't need to be approved of in order to survive anymore. And that's the foundation. This is why I teach self-love. Because until we feel safe, we cannot change. So I'm not saying that drinking the poison water is something we want to do for the rest of our lives. That's not what I'm saying. There's a better way. But it's not because the poison water is bad. Okay, so here, when you ask, what do we do about this? I'm doing all my things, it's not working. I know what's good for me, I can't get myself to do it. What do we do about this? Number one thing, we recognize the nervous systems that we have, where learning something new, discovering something about ourselves, revealing to ourselves who we really are, what we really want, what we really need, what's really going on. None of it can happen until we feel safe in our bodies. So all the spiritual techniques that take you out of your body, all of the spiritual techniques, physical techniques, mental techniques that stress you out, okay? We're all addicted to this shit. Long fasts, really intense exercise, super stressful meditation sessions when we're at Vipassana and we're like totally out of our zone. Plant medicine, where we're literally stimulating the shit out of our nervous systems, getting high off of cortisol and adrenaline and thinking we're having a spiritual experience, not gonna do it. Because we're in a state of stress. That's why we can't see anything. When we're in a state of stress, perception narrows. We only do what we've always done. We know this. When the nervous system is in control, when the stress response is our state of being, we cannot do anything different. We cannot take in new information. We cannot learn. We cannot grow because the body thinks we're about to die. So whatever it is that you did the last time you felt this stress is what you're going to do right now. You're triggered. If you haven't already, go back and watch my video on why learning to sit with a trigger will change your life. We have to learn how to sit through our triggers, to feel that stress, let it come up, ride the wave, and then prove to our nervous systems that doing our coping mechanisms, doing our scapegoating, doing our self-sabotage, whatever it is that we do, isn't the thing that saves our lives. So we use little micro doses of discipline to not engage in our behaviors. Not because our behaviors are bad, because they're not. That poison water is not bad. But we need to take time to prove to ourselves, okay, I didn't die, I'm safe. I'm an adult, I'm not a child. So then we're going to sit through that. We're going to feel like, okay, holy shit, that was scary. We're going to feel like we're going to die when we don't act on our scapegoats, on our coping, and on our self-sabotage. It's going to feel worse because your nervous system thinks you're about to die, and now you're not doing that thing that saved your life. So you're going to die double. So we ride through it. We get to the other side, show ourselves, okay, I didn't die. Like literally think that thought to yourself. Look, physical body, like feel your body. Get into your body, okay, we didn't die. Now, what need am I getting met through this behavior? If I were to actually never do that behavior again, what would I lose? Where's the positive intention? We have to start looking at all the things that we do to ourselves that we think are bad. How are you helping me? What are you giving me that if I didn't do you anymore, if I didn't engage in this anymore, I would lose? Though that is the important question. How are you helping me? How are you serving me? What are you doing that if I didn't have this? Okay, so I'll give you an example from my life. The being so obsessed with working. Workaholic. From the minute I wake up in the morning to the minute I go to bed at night, I'm productive. And then, so this is literally like almost like a decade ago now. I had this habit of picking at food in the afternoon. I wouldn't give myself a snack. I would just go to the fridge and pick all the raisins out of the granola I had made. Just picking at food. And it would be this weird obsessive thing that I did every day. So one day I was like, okay, I want to understand what this is. So I did the thing where I felt the urge to do that. I said, okay, I'm just going to give myself 5 or 10 minutes to feel like I want to do this thing but not do it. Not because it's bad. I'm just going to give myself 10 minutes. And then if I want to do the picking at it, because, right, we literally make it okay. Whatever your behavior is, whatever that thing is that you can't get yourself to do because you're doing something else, you know what's good for you, but you can't do it because you're doing this other thing, your scapegoat, your sabotage, your coping, you make it okay. I'm allowed to do it in 10 minutes. I'm not taking it away from myself because, again, that just triggers the nervous system into fear. We say, I'm allowed. It's okay. I love myself. Right? This self-love. This is why I say it's everything. Because in love, we feel safe. In safety, we can do something different. In safety, we can learn something. In safety, we can expand. But only in safety. And we have to work with the nervous systems we have, which love equals safety, rejection equals fear. So self-love being the most empowering thing you can do, because then you can make yourself feel safe all the time. When you can love yourself, you can always get yourself into a state of safety. You don't need the external world to be approving of you. And then you can always be in a state of growth. So again, how do I know what I know? Unconditional self-love. I don't always have it, but when I can tap into my own self-love and I can approve of myself anyways, that's when I've learned everything that I've learned. When I'm in a state of love, I'm learning. That's it. That's what a state of love is. It's open to new information. So we sit with our thing, we make it okay to do it in 10 minutes, but we're just going to sit with it. So that's what I did. Sat with it, felt like I was going to die, recognized that I didn't die. The wave of anxiety came and went, and then I was like, okay, what am I getting out of this? If I were to stop this forever, what would I lose? And it was like, my break. And I was like, my break? It's like, yeah, that's my rest time. That's the one time of day where I'm not pushing myself to accomplish something, pushing myself to be something, pushing myself to do something. When I'm standing at the counter picking at food, it's the one time of day I'm off. And I was like, oh, it's meeting a need. It's meeting a need for rest. I thought I was supposed to be productive and available and doing stuff and working all the time. And I look back on my childhood and I look back in my way and I was like, yeah, I've been doing this forever. I'm completely exhausted. No wonder I need the picking at food. It's the only time of day I can rest. So I said, okay, what if I start giving myself some other way of resting? And that was really scary. I'm not worthy of rest. Who am I to take a break? I'm here to serve. I'm here to give to other people. I am not good enough. I don't deserve a break. I don't deserve rest. My brain telling me all these things, my conditioning saying resting is wrong and bad. My body telling me you need rest. So, you see, my conditioning was conflicting with reality. So I had to say, well, reality must be right. My body is not lying to me. I need rest. It completely contradicts my worldview. So now I'm going to have to change my worldview. But obviously what I think I'm supposed to be and what I think I'm supposed to do to be good cause pain. So therefore it can't be in alignment with reality. Pain and pleasure doesn't lie. Of course I get a hit of the consensus reality pleasure of being accepted and approved of because look how much I'm serving. But when I'm with myself, I don't feel good. So this is the answer to this question. And it is not simple, and it is not easy. But how we start to figure out what we really want and what we really need. How we start to figure out why we're doing all this shit and it's not working. Is we have to start to become internally motivated. Meaning we have to stop saying that our consensus, what we were taught from the outside, what everyone out there is saying is the right thing, what I believe right now to be the way reality is. If it's not feeling good, if there's pain, it's wrong. And so, again, people ask me, how do I know what I know? I started abandoning what the world told me was right and wrong and what was going to give me pleasure and what was going to be the right thing for me in exchange for the actual pain and pleasure I was feeling in my experience. I followed my true pleasure. I listened to my true pain. So like I said, I started to learn the difference between consensus reality, pain and pleasure. This feels good because I'm getting approved of. This feels bad because it equals rejection. And reality, pain and pleasure. This feels good because it actually feels good. Whether or not anyone approves of me or rejects me, it doesn't matter. How does it feel inside when I do this? This feels bad. Everyone's approving of me, but there's pain still. Reality's right. I have to go with what reality says. So this is why over and over and over again in my life, I have gotten like this close to being able to do what everyone wanted me to do. What would have gotten me acceptance. Because I'm strong and I'm intelligent. I can do a lot of the things that people wanted me to do. I would get this close and I would sabotage myself. I'd quit the job right before I got the promotion. That was the main one. Quit the job, leave the country, sabotage the relationship, because I was like, ultimately, this just doesn't feel good. This is pain. And I would go off and do things that people were like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Sell all my shit and move to Thailand. With no plan. No idea what I'm doing. Okay, and again, I'm not saying to be reckless, because I didn't have no plan. I had a job. I had money. I didn't ask anyone to support me. I had a safety net. If I lost the job, we could go back to Canada. We never went into debt. We never touched our savings. I was wise about things, right? So again, following your truth doesn't mean you just fly by the seat of your pants. I'm still a logical person who's responsible and takes care of myself because that feels good. Being responsible feels good. So eventually you get to a place where you've followed your true self enough that you don't need to wonder if you're on the right path or not. You don't need a teacher to tell you. You just know by how it feels. And again, you don't know intellectually all the time. There are many things that I've done with my diet, with my lifestyle, that at first looked crazy. And it took a while for results to show themselves. And the only way that I knew that what I was doing was the right thing was because it felt like the right thing. It didn't feel manic. It didn't feel exciting. It didn't feel like, oh my God, this is the answer to all my problems. It felt like, no, this just feels like the right thing. This feels good. It looks crazy. People aren't going to understand it. I don't really even necessarily have a way of explaining it right now because I haven't experienced it yet. I just know that it feels right. And then I go through it, and a year or two later, I get results, and then I'm like, oh, okay, here's why that was the right thing. I can tell you that now. So there's another answer to your question. How do I know what I know? I've experienced all these things. I don't teach anything I haven't been through. So that's why if you ask me what happens after death, I don't teach about that because I haven't died. I don't have a memory of that. I don't have an experience of that. I can tell you a lot about life, though, because I'm living life. I'm not dead. So this is it. We need to start to become internally motivated. All those things you think you're doing that are the right things, maybe they're not the right thing. Maybe it's what you think you should be doing, but it's painful. So it's not the right thing. You don't need to be pushing yourself that hard. You need to start with safety. You need to start with accepting yourself for who and what you are right now. You're traumatized. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you want. You don't know what's right for you. Can you love that part of you? Stop trying to fix yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. Can you just accept you're traumatized? That's the first step for most of us. Let go of trying to figure it out. Let go of trying to do the right thing. And then Glenn asked me, have I had out-of-body experience? Yeah, I can put myself in other people's bodies. I can feel what it feels like to be in someone else's body. I have very leaky boundaries, but not in the sense of like astral projection. So anyways, there's that. Love who you are right now. What happens if you just approved of you? And I know that's so hard and scary because we all think if I approve of myself for who I am right now, I'll never change, I'll never get better, and then I'll be shitty forever. But the thing is, again, that's the snake eating its own tail. Because the reason you're trying to improve is because you think it's going to get you love. So if you start loving yourself for who you are right now, you don't have to improve to get love. You can be loved for who you are. And then so many of the things that you think are wrong with you and that you think are so painful, stop being so painful because they no longer mean love goes away. You have so many things you hate about yourself because it means that other people reject you. And therefore love goes away because you don't have self-love. But what if you could love yourself in it? Then that pain of them rejecting you doesn't hurt so bad because you can love you. I had to learn that too. It's really hard to love the parts of myself that I'm just like, no, this is just genuine to me right now. Maybe this not forever, but for right now, this is who and what I am. And you don't like it, I'm going to have to. I made it safe for me to be myself. And then everything that isn't actually genuine to me, I stop wanting to do naturally. So this is the thing. I start to say, okay, well, that actually doesn't feel good. And like I say, how do we start to know what our coping mechanisms, self-sabotage, and scapegoats are doing for us? Feel the urge. Get through the anxiety of not acting on it. Start to ask yourself, what would I lose if I gave this thing up forever? How is this serving me? Like literally, ask yourself, what am I getting out of this that's positive? How is this helping me not be what I don't want to be? How is this helping me be what I think I have to be? Right? And then the whole existential crisis that's going to come with that. We need to be so deeply compassionate with ourselves that we're only going to drip feed ourselves these revelations. Because it's scary to realize that your foundations for who and what you think you're supposed to be aren't true. You are never going to be that. You're going to have to learn how to love yourself even though the world might reject you. Because you have had experiences of being rejected for who you are, and it's probably going to happen again. You're probably going to own yourself, and it's not going to be like you find your tribe and everyone loves you. Most of the time, when we actually accept ourselves, everyone around us bolts, rejects us, tells us they hate us. Because we've been being a person for them that we aren't. And then we go through a period of isolation, and then we find people who love us. When we're actually able to embody being our real selves. And we've gotten over the generalized other idea that everyone is going to hate this and everyone loves this. We have to first love ourselves. Lose all those people. Lose all that life. Make a new way that we've never even seen before. So it's going to be hard. So it's one little step at a time. When people depend on you, it's crazy, but letting go can maybe untangle that. Exactly. Stop telling people you're going to be this person that you can't be. And then let the stuff fall apart. That's scary. But that's how we get there. So, you're doing the best and you know how. Everything, we need to start approaching it as I'm meeting a need. So what would I lose if I didn't do this thing? And is this actually the right thing for me? Because if it's painful and it's horrible and I hate it and it sucks, I need to find safety first. Can I love and approve of myself for who and what I am right now? And then it's going to be a ride to figure yourself out. It's a big journey. So we need to be compassionate and gentle with ourselves. We only reveal to ourselves what we're capable of revealing to ourselves. So the plant medicine thing and all this stuff, we all go and we have these big revelations and then we can't do anything with it because it's too much for us. The slow and steady path wins the race. So stop pushing yourself. Do a little bit of discipline. Show up a little bit with love, not trying to fix yourself. Okay? So that's the end of that live today. I hope this helped. You are good enough. You're not the anomaly. There's nothing wrong with you. You're getting needs met. You don't know how any other way. You were indoctrinated that those needs are not okay. You don't even know they exist. So you start being with you. Start feeling your pain and pleasure. Start feeling the consensus reality pain and pleasure. And you will untangle this one step at a time. Okay? Love you. You're all amazing. Talk to you later.